In the studio, we've been joined by the Chairman, Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy and Food Security, who also doubles as the Chairman of Energy Governance Coordination Group, Alhaji Dr. Kande Kole Yumkela. Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning in the program.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Promise made.
And promise
kept.
We're expecting to have the Deputy Minister of Energy too, Engineer Edmond Nuni, who's rounding off another interview from one of our sister channels. He would join us in the conversation. Together, they would talk about the country's energy sector as we look at ways to improve electricity supply across the country. Dr. Yumkela, let's start with EDSA. EDSA has never tendered an apology to the residents of Sierra Leone for the inefficiencies in electricity supply. But on 24th of November last year, they conveniently tendered an apology to the Office of the First Lady, to the First Lady particularly, for interruptions in electricity supply in Kenema during an interview. Now, the thing about electricity is it's not just about the comfort and convenience. For some people, it's about livelihood. For others, it's about their health, those in critical conditions in hospitals. Do you see the need this morning to tender a heartfelt and sincere apology to the people of Sierra Leone who have been affected by the poor electricity supply in the country?
Yes. Let me apologize on behalf of EDSA for the inefficiency in our power supply in the country. Let me apologize for them for the way EDSA has managed distribution of electricity in the country, collection of the monies people pay, the kinds of meters they have provided over time. So I tender that apology. It can be 10 times better. We need a quantum leap to a more efficient EDSA, and I'll talk about what we're doing about that. So you're very right. We should apologize, and I'm apologizing for the whole energy sector, but particularly for EDSA.
Now let's get a status of our electricity situation in the country. Paint us a picture of the reality. What capacity are we operating on? Yeah. And what capacity do we need to get to that point where there would be 24 hours consistent electricity supply in the country?
Well, let's put it in context. Yeah. In 2018, the installed capacity in this whole country was 130 megawatts. 130 megawatts. By end of 2024, it is 270 megawatts. There has been a major increase over the last 6 years, but it's far below what we really need. But I want to put it in context. Second context. The number of customers for EDSA in 2018 was about 199,000. The number of customers today, customers that are registered, I mean, about 350,000. Quantum leap in generation capacity, quantum leap in number of customers we need to serve. And I believe the customer base is even bigger because we are not counting all of those that are connected illegally. So to talk about what we really need, let's take Freetown. What we give Freetown on a daily basis is between 65 to 70 megawatts. That's all we give here. What Freetown needs is between 130 to 150 megawatts. See the gap between what we can give and what is needed. And so why are we only able to give that much? Because we're not generating enough. Thanks to Karpower, we're filling the gap with Karpower to provide 50 to 60 megawatts additional to the country. So we don't have enough generation capacity, but even if we generated much more, you're going to have bottlenecks in distribution because of transformers, substations, and so on not being adequate. So I gave you the case study of Freetown about inadequacy of generation and distribution. Let's take the rest of the country. We did now, since October, for the country, a projection into 10 years How much power are we going to need, and what should be our targets? That's one of the deliverables we've put on the table in November, December this year. Over the next, let's take the next 5 years, we will need an additional 300 to 400 megawatts just for you and me. The mining sector alone needs an additional 500 megawatts. So you begin to see the scale of demand. Therefore, you see the need to expand generation. But there's another bottleneck, transmission.
Beyond
there's only
the
one line.
Dr. Yumkela, beyond the expansion, let's look at the current picture of the agreement with Karpowership.
Okay.
Aren't we being cheated as a people? We had the communication from the government that there was a renegotiation with the Karpowership, with what Karpowership itself is supposed to be supplying to the city. You would wonder, why do we still see a deterioration in electricity supply in the country? Aren't we being cheated as a people? Are we getting what we're paying Karpowership for?
Let's put it in context. As a matter of fact, we are in the beginning of those negotiations now. We've done 2 days from the studio here. I have to go continue meeting with Karpower. Put it in a broader context. Yeah, we've signed an agreement with Karpower under emergency conditions, the conditions of 2017, 2018. It was meant to be emergency power.
But was it being monitored to ensure that the people of Sierra Leone get the value for their money?
So let me finish then. So it came in as emergency, and then it's continued to stay now as a major part of the energy supply, yeah, which I believe we should transition out of. And the president is determined, and he's used the terminology energy sovereignty. We must break the 20-year dependence on emergency power. You put it in a broader context. We've always been on emergency power for the last 20 years. Income electric generators, Agreco, and now Karpower. And it's gone from one administration to the next administration, 3 administrations, all emergency power. The determination now is to move away from that to power that we own, power we trade with our neighbors, but part of it is ours. That's what we need to do. Now, we go into the context. The cost of Karpower is very high. It's a big burden on the country. We're examining everything. Remember, I've only been in this position 5 months, and I'm working to a 6-7 year arrangement. So we're examining everything. How much power have we been getting? Because we have to review, right? The contract ends in June, and we owe a lot of money. What is the pricing of that power that we're getting? Are there alternatives that are much cheaper that we should introduce even more into our energy mix and hopefully wean ourselves off emergency power after 2 decades? We have to do it. To do that transition, there's going to be some pain, eh? Yes, there's going to be some pain. But I can tell you what we're trying to put in place to make sure that at some point, and we'll determine that in this conversation we're having with Karpower, we have 4 more months of the contract, what the next pathway would be. But we have to wean ourselves off 20 years of emergency power. And the context is different, and that's what we've presented to our friends. Because they've been here, eh? And they're in about 15 other African countries along West Africa. I've asked the question, with that concentration of the ships in West Africa, what is it a symptom of? Nigeria, Ghana, they have gas, they have oil. Things we don't have, we have to buy. How come they are not able to meet their energy security needs? Yeah? What is happening here? But again, specifically to us, we're examining everything. We are new in this. And the negotiating team is very formidable, with the Minister of Finance, myself, Deputy Minister 2, the Attorney General, and of course a large group of technical people. We're looking at everything. How much power has been supplied? How much payments have we made? I can give you a number. Between January and June this year, we have to pay them $90 million. By the end of the contract, we would have paid over $300 million. So we have to look at that, value for money. That is why the president is determined. He said we must break the cycle of emergency power in this country. So we're repairing our own generators, Kintam and Black Road. I said to the nation in November, we'll try to get Kintam to begin to pump power by January. I'm happy to tell you that yes, with the help of the Japanese, we've repaired the 2 generators there. We're providing fuel and we'll begin to pump in 10 megawatts.
Doc, let me hold you there for a bit. You spoke extensively about the distribution of electricity within Freetown. Now, are there plans to, extend, some of these facilities to rural communities that have never had the opportunity to get electricity?
Yes, it's a good transition. Freetown is not Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is bigger. So let me go to the provinces a little bit, yeah? Again, over the last 6 years, government has tried to expand now the transmission line between Kenema and Bo, yeah? To extend the CLSG line so that we can evacuate more power into those cities and the communities along. That project this week, we've just been meeting with ADB to close it. It's been going on for about 5-6 years now. So under Kanja's administration, good infrastructure, transmission line, one of them completed, the 66 kVA transmission line. We're testing it now, but let me tell you what happened. We're going to commission that in March. We went to one of the substations, they vandalized it. A second one, the ADB team was here, the contractors are here to hand over. A second one is vandalized in Bo, real deep vandalization. Now we have to wait to bring those materials in. But that project has connected 31 communities. And once we fire that line in the next month or so, those 30-something communities between Kenema and Bo will get power. With the ADB now, we're closing a conversation. They've provided funding now. We're preparing a cabinet paper to go to cabinet and then parliament for what we call a PPF, a project preparation facility, to do an additional line from Bo to Mile 91 to connect another 61 communities along that line as we go. So there are these plans on. That will be probably another 100 million, but it's a new project. It will take us about a year to do the feasibility study and everything that is needed. In addition, we're looking at adding, President's target is 200 mini grids. Yeah, already in April, we will launch with the European Union and the World Bank an additional 67 or so mini grids across the country. Yeah, the funding is there, everything. We've been working on it about almost a year now, and the President will launch that. Yeah, so yes. In addition, since November, we've been able to switch on Bont, Pujaon, Kailaon, and Moyamba. Yeah, we are doing 3 more, which is Kabbalah, Cambia, and Matrujon. These are all projects. I put it in context because I don't want Sierra Leoneans to believe that electricity and electrification is a miracle. No. We are fast-tracking projects. Some of them were stuck, some of them were slow for many, many reasons. Part of my job from President is fast-track execution and implementation and accountability in these projects. If you take Western area, that's what I was hoping Engineer Nuni will talk about. Western area, with the support of the World Bank and the Japanese JICA, we've been able to add additional transmission lines to go through Godrich and then go through Godrich to Sussex. Now we're trying to do Sussex to Waterloo to have a complete loop around Freetown. Why? Until this transmission line was finished, we were only able to pump into Freetown with all good intentions, about 65 megawatts. The system cannot handle more. But with the completion, it's already completed, testing is going on, we can now add another 120 megawatts into Freetown.
How soon are we going to be experiencing all of this?
So let me give you the timeline. Yeah, in November, I presented you short term, medium term, long term. In the short term now, as I said to you, one target already met. We'll pump in 10 megawatts straight off, yeah, from Kintom. Those machines were sitting 5 years, not repaired. We've done it. President gave the command. He provided the funds from finance, repaired with the help of the Japanese. The other day we were in Black Hole Road, 16 megawatts, 6 years not on. It's authorized. Funding has been provided to the suppliers of the spare parts. They come, they fix it. I gave a timeline. I said April in November. Why? I assume the money will be released in December. Funds were only released now. So that will be ready in June. What am I saying?
Doc, I hate to intrude, but you just mentioned that some of these machines have been sitting for 6 years and more. Why have they not been running? Who's responsible for that?
That's many, many factors. Yeah. The important thing is now, and that's why the President saw the need for me to come in, to catalyze action, build the teams, work with those who have been doing the work, push them a little bit, encourage them, facilitate. When there is a barrier, sometimes I leave my office, I go to finance 2-3 times in the day or send teams. Good cooperation with finance, because for some reason, let me give you the interconnections. Because EDSA cannot pay for services, replacement, maintenance, and capital investments, we have to go to finance for them to pay for that. But the guy has a menu on his table. He has to pay for health, agriculture, other priorities. So which comes first, the hospital or your power system? Fortunately, President, as the Minister of Energy, has been able to say, look, if you don't have enough electricity, those systems don't work. So I, as President, I authorize. The money was released, Kintom is going. The money has been released for Blackwell Road, inshallah. We'll push that as well, so that instead of April, I'm looking now at June, because the funds came late. The transfer of the funds took time. So which means in Freetown, by June, July, we add 25 megawatts of our own generation. Yeah? We add another 15 megawatts from Makut. They've already built their plant. I'm going to visit them possibly next week. An additional 15 megawatts. So that's 40 megawatts guaranteed for Freetown within the next 6 to 7 months. Now, going on to December or first quarter 2026, we add 30 megawatts from Newton. Vice President did the groundbreaking in November. And then by December, or again Q1, we add another 40 megawatts from Kamakwe. In short, in summary, in Freetown, we plan to triple the supply in Freetown by Q1 next year.
So does that mean come towards November or towards the year 2026, we'll be free from all these challenges?
Let me put it this way, not free from all,
or minimized?
Minimized, but we will triple the supply. That's a major milestone here. We break the back, and most of it will be cheaper solar power, probably at 9 cents, 10 cents, yeah, compared to buying at 21 cents. You see where I'm headed? So those are the short-term plans fixed, part of my job, and every month, Deputy Minister Juan Taylor, Deputy Minister Nuni, myself, and senior colleagues, we go to visit all these projects to make sure execution is taking place, and we will be on schedule. I say this for a good reason, for the public to understand. When you have blackouts and so on, don't panic too much, because what we must avoid is what happened over the last 2 decades. There's a blackout, people panic for political reasons, you look for emergency power, and then we get stuck on it for 20 years. We are very focused on this transition, and you will know since 2023, we introduced that vocabulary of energy transition, meaning transitioning from emergency to stable, reliable, affordable power, part of which we own, transitioning to more renewables, and as I told you now, by Q1, we would have added almost 80 to 95 megawatts of clean energy to the system. I'm not even talking about the longer term projects yet, Bumbuna, Dodo, an additional 65 megawatts for Kono, clean solar power. The team is coming to do those assessments soon from the partner. 80 megawatts, infinity power, on the banks of the Bumbuna. Another group looking at upgrading the dam. By the time we add those, you will see why I say to you, 300 to 500 megawatts added to this system in the next 5 years. That's the trajectory we want to be on.
So the only way people get convinced with all these promises and explanations.
These are not promises, these are plans.
Explanations of plans underway is when the explanation becomes their reality.
Inshallah.
You switch on your switch and there's electricity.
Yes.
That's the only way the people are convinced. But along the line you spoke about a decrease. To avoid misconception, are you suggesting that at some point the cost of electricity would be reduced?
Let me put it this way. I have asked the EWRC, the regulator, to begin to do a modeling for us. I did that last week. That's their job. I said, do a modeling for us when the energy mix changes and we introduce more cheaper renewables. At what time? We don't know yet. We have to do modeling. At what time can Mr. President lower tariffs across the country for businesses and the people. That's one of the key outcomes we're looking at. Add more renewables to the mix. Hydro is very cheap, 3, 5, 6, 7 cents. Our solar now is between 3 to 9 cents for some of the projects that are coming online by Q1 next year. Yeah. By how much can we reduce? I don't know, because these cannot be political decisions. If you make it too cheap, you kill EDSA again, or whoever is going to be a partner of EDSA. It has to be based on real modeling and real economics. So I've given those instructions. Yeah? As we add more renewables to the mix, and so in other words, the weighting of the cheaper source is higher than the more costly HF4 and diesel-based generation, then we know by how much we can lower tariffs, but allowing enough margin for EDSA and its partner that will be coming in possibly in July to be able to make a return and also invest in maintenance, operations, and also new capital investments.
Earlier on you spoke about expansion of supply and access to electricity. But the challenge there is the people already connected to the electricity struggle to get access. How then do you now expand to incorporate new customer base when the customers you already have are struggling to get access to electricity? EDSA is running mostly now on prepaid. Unlike before with NPA, when it was postpaid, there were challenges. You begin to wonder, a prepaid like we do with our SIM cards, it's what you buy that you'd have to consume. And the more you supply electricity, the more business you get. Isn't there a faulty business model with EDSA?
It's not faulty business model.
But it doesn't seem to be working.
It's bad
from
management.
The
No, I was going to
perspective.
make it worse. Yeah, I don't want to use a euphemism. Faulty business model. Hell no. The business model is clear, but it's bad management. EDSA has management issues. It's been studied to death by MCC in the last 5 months. You know, with Andrew Kiley, we brought in the Danish electrification agency to focus only on loss reduction, revenue enhancement. We brought in the Americans, Power Africa, to do catchment areas in Freetown. Yeah? The problem is worse. Yeah? We took a catchment area of Freetown. I will not name the location. We had the people go house to house with the experts from overseas, check which meters are there. Yeah? Are they tamper-proof? Are they working? What's the brand? We found different brands. If you extrapolate to the rest of the country, we have about 15 different types of meters. Yeah? Some of them substandard. Yeah? Some of them, the worst part, don't even send your prepaid money to EDSA. That's why I say it's broken. It's not managed properly. What are we doing to fix that? That work also started 3-4 years ago under Kanja. We're now trying to complete it. We're launching. In November, we did a roadshow. With all of its problems, it is still an asset because it has a customer base, 8.5 million people that are ready to buy power if you have it, yeah? So we did a roadshow. We sent our teams out. They invited companies to take a look at EDSA. Yeah, after a lot of work had been done, their financials, everything. 11 companies showed interest. We narrowed down to 6. End of this month, we're launching the request for proposal. In other words, a bidding process. We will select one of those companies by June, July, to be a private sector partner to EDSA, to invest their money and run that commercial part, so that when you pay your prepaid, you get exactly what you should get. But we get that revenue in the coffers. So that management, we're going to have a private sector partner. In addition, now, this year, we have 40,000 tamper-proof meters. And we're developing a plan with the EDSA management, EDSA board. We're going to install those tamper-proof meters. They're smart meters. So we'll have a big dashboard in EDSA. When we put a meter in your home, it will show a red sign. So we know that meter is there and it is on. And it's registering in EDSA. If you tamper with it, the color will change. And that's a crime. So, but that 40,000, we're hoping, with the World Bank, it's all supplied by the World Bank, will begin to phase in and replace all these other different types. So we have a standardized version. We stopped a purchase of 20,000 that was already processed, and we stopped it because we didn't believe it had gone through the right channel. So we stopped that several weeks ago. We want to standardize now. In addition, we've hired a chief operating officer, it's a foreigner, in EDSA to manage the commercial wing and also other parts of the operations. Right now we are interviewing for a chief technology officer. Why is that important? We need to reduce just like mobile phones, we need to reduce the human element in money collection and logging in numbers. So you collect, you go to Phoebe's house, you bypass the meter for her, and we don't know. Free light, there are many people, there are over 60,000 in one of the studies we've done in Freetown, getting free light. They know they pay. We just went into the database with the American experts that came, just to go through, have they paid? When did they pay? Zero, over 60,000. We're going to change that by beginning to install these smart meters. In a city like Abidjan, they collect almost 90%. In Gambia, their losses are 21%. Our losses here are 60%. So EDSA is not functioning.
So we'll continue to delve into the functionality of EDSA in management, but let's look at the loss the people suffer. Some of the fire accidents in the country now have had, fingers pointed at EDSA to say it is as a result of the quality of electricity they supply that has led to some of these fire outbreaks. When we started off this morning with our banter, I was mentioning there was a time at AYV here, the MD's office, the bulb was just fuzzing. Next thing you know, it was on the carpet and there was a fire. So there are allegations against EDSA, people's fridges, televisions, chargers, extensions being blown off. Is there attention by your team now to look into these allegations and figure out what the truths or false allegations are in this story? The quality of electricity supplied by EDSA and the dangers it's posing to property and life.
Very true. Yeah, and it's two ways. We're working on that. We want to increase the size of the rapid response team. We want to provide an adequate logistics. We're looking at that with EDSA board and others. When and how we're going to finance that, we'll have a good discussion in a week or so that there's rapid response. Second, I come back to metering. If the metering process and organization is not revamped, you're going to have many more of those incidents. The case studies we've done just in Freetown, you can do the same upline. Yeah, you will see some of those meters are substandard. Yes, they're causing problems. They may not account for all the fires, let's not exaggerate, but there's a problem there. Yeah, so yes, we're looking at it, but in addition, I've learned now in the 5 months, I've only been there 5 months. Remember, it's a 40-year-old problem, 40-year-old problem. I can't fix it in 5 months.
But when you say meters, Doc, it doesn't give me pleasure interrupting you, but when you say meters, is it really wholly solely these meters? Because
it's also the wiring in the house.
The fluctuation in the power, sometimes the current, the voltage is too heavy.
Yeah.
Other times it's too low that only the bulbs can come on.
Very true.
Is this wholly attributed to the meters?
No, definitely not. That's why we started on the infrastructure side, the distribution networks, the substations, all of that we're looking at. And indeed, we're hopeful with MCC money and some of what we are beginning to do now. With MCC, almost 50% of that money is focused on that area. Grid stability, grid integrity. You have a dispatch center where you can manage supply and demand so you avoid these surges. You have fiber optics to be able to detect areas where there are faults along the line. So again, that's another reason why the MCC money is crucial to be able to build that infrastructure. It takes technology, and we're hoping with the private sector partner, if they in the end bite and agree to have a deal on EDSA, they're going to be looking at that, introducing more technology, investing their own technology and also management systems to deal with those issues you've raised.
You're pointing now at the MCC. With the current administration in America, with President Trump's, for lack of a better way to put it, reversal of certain things, cutting down on the expenditure of the American government, how realistic or feasible is that MCC money? How forthcoming is it to Sierra Leone with what's going on in America?
Based on all my information, real-time information, locally, and also Washington, I'm cautiously optimistic that after the freeze, MCC will begin to function again. Yeah, so I've talked to a lot of friends. I'm headed there very soon. to meet some of the new administration officials and others. But I'm cautiously optimistic that after the freeze, MCC will move on. USAID is a different question. Yeah, but MCC, all sources, US, local, and so on, have assured us that we can remain cautiously optimistic.
All right, Doc, would like to hold you there for a minute and let's take a story which was done by Memunat Suma yesterday with regards to a fire incident that occurred at Lewis Street.
A devastating fire has ripped through an apartment, leaving about 8 homes in ruins. The burnt remains of what were once homes, now just piles of debris. Residents have lost everything. Their homes, possessions, memories are all gone in the blaze. Affected residents AYV spoke with are still in shock, trying to come to terms with the devastation.
This morning, I was cooking rice when my daughter and I heard a loud, unusual sound. She quickly ran inside to turn off the switches in the house. We continued cooking outside when we suddenly heard commotion and realized that the house was on fire. We all ran out of the compound and could not go back in to collect our belongings because the heat was too intense.
I left one of my brothers at my tailor shop and went to Donda Street. When I returned and started working on my machine, I noticed a burnt smell coming from a cable. I searched to find the source of the burning, but couldn't locate anything. I removed the machine's socket and plugged it into the stabilizer. Before I knew it, I heard that a fire had engulfed the compound. I managed to save some of my items.
The cause of the fire is unknown, but thankfully casualties have not been reported. Community people and fire force officials are on the ground working to extinguish the flames and prevent further spread.
Many residents and witnesses we spoke with believe the cause of this fire lies quietly with the intermittent power supply from the Electricity Distribution Supply Authority. They describe frequent power outages followed by surges from the power returns. They suspect these surges may have sparked the fire.
MPA need for upgrade. This hotel, then they put people in appliances, then they put people in house. Not so. We are the first responder. What do you think blow off something like me don't know there? Yes.
I am one of the first responders to the incident. The fire was caused by EDSA's poor power supply and electrical appliances. The lights go out frequently.
We are first responder. They were tired. The appliances, hotel lights. When they take lights, they close this fire.
AYV will reach out to the Electricity Distribution Authority to comment on these allegations. This incident has highlighted the ongoing challenges with the power supply in Freetown and the potential dangers it poses to residents. For now, residents of these destroyed apartments are calling on government and philanthropists for assistance. We will continue to follow up on this story and bring you updates as they become available. Memunat Suma, AYV News, Freetown.
All right, thank you very much again, Memunat Suma, for that report. Now, Doc, you've seen and heard for yourself. I mean, you have so much experience with UNEDO and that of sustainable energy for all. What are some of the strategies or method you think we need to adapt in order to improve the electricity issues in our country? And why do we still have, this consistent power outage and issues when it comes to electricity, basically?
When I looked at that clip, it was emotional. Those people lost everything they have. I'm happy no lives were lost. Of course, it raises many questions in my head. And this is why in other countries, they'll go in and do forensics to determine the real cause. Yeah, was it really the surge? Was the meter a good meter, bad meter? Was there direct connection to the house? There are many things we've seen in some locations. People shout EDSA immediately. But you also have to ask those technical questions. How was the connection done? How was the wiring done within? Yeah, I have cases that I know where the wiring within the house is the wrong cabling. So again, diagnosing a fire is a technical issue. It's not just an immediate.
EDSA itself has suffered fire outbreaks in some of its offices.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that the situation as well in EDSA?
Again.
Did EDSA have wrong wiring and wrong meter?
Again, it could be many reasons why EDSA had fire before. You know, again, my tenure is 5 years. I could go investigate why they had fire. There are rumors about why that fire was caused, but I don't deal in rumors. I deal in technicality. Maybe they have a report. I'm just saying here, as I said, I sympathize with them. We have to diagnose. But to come to your broader question, we have to do everything I talked about before. Yeah? Improve the distribution network, improve the metering, improve the wiring in the homes, the skills, those who are doing the wiring, are they doing the right wiring? Are they insulating those wires? Is it the right size to carry the load that you're demanding? Electrification is a complex technical issue. You put the wrong wiring, you get fire. So again, now we are looking at skills development along the value chain as well. Those who are going to wire people's homes, are they really skilled? Do they really look at the load that is going to be added? And what we know about electrification is that supply creates its own demand. The moment somebody gets electricity, they add more appliances. But if that wiring was faulty already from the beginning, you add more, there's going to be a problem.
Are you aware that some of these instances, it's actually EDSA workers that people in community contact to do these jobs on the side?
Yes, ma'am.
They are EDSA workers, but they don't do it officially as an EDSA worker.
Yes, ma'am.
But they are the same people who work at EDSA.
We are very aware. You're very correct. That's why I say what I've promised now. You remember I promised either every month or every 2 months we're going to have a public engagement. That's why we called you. Yeah, complete transparency and accountability. That's why we called you. That beginning of the year will come here, right? My colleague is just coming back from morning coffee in Creole. The next one is going to be on EDSA. We're going to have the chairman of EDSA, DG EDSA, maybe DG EGTC organized. Because I believe since EDSA is consumer facing, they must also regularly talk to the consumers in simple terms, as we the political leads are doing here. We're setting the example. Our second press engagement in about 5 months at our level, we're going to shift the show now. Those who are in the direct front line, who are the DGs and the engineers, we're going to organize them. So they know that people want answers, real answers, because remember, ministers don't wire places, they don't put meters. So for me, it's a good way of accountability. So you know that when there's a problem, you know, the minister make blackout, they're not to the minister. Yeah, the minister, they govern, they manage, but yes, there are people below the minister. So for example, either today or tomorrow, for what has happened abnormally in the last 3 days, we're going to ask the DG of EDSA and his team to face the nation and explain. So the teams are out. You see my colleague is entering with all his battle gear, workman's clothing on. We're sending teams out because what happened the last 3 days is not normal. Yesterday, almost 71 megawatts in the city. It's the same average we've had since December, January. Everybody happy, say light stable. What happened the last 2 days? We want to know. So they're going to substations. We're going to check logs. How much power can? How much power come out? Now, human factor, make them not supply. Why you not supply? We want to know because they're feeders. So we want to know what happened the last 3 days is not normal. Is it human element? And human element has many dimensions. We want to know why, but technically we did check. Because based on our records, what came in today is the same thing that came in January 20th. There was no blackout in the city. The timing is questionable. The occurrence is questionable. We want to know.
Okay, to viewers and listeners, we've just been joined in the studio by the Deputy Minister of Energy 2, Engineer Edmond Noni. Good morning once again. You've had it all from Doc. Why does Sierra Leone, or Freetown to be precise, still experience, power cuts?
Yeah, good morning, and apologies to everyone for being late. I'll go there, but I just wanted to touch on the subject that I met around the wiring. So I'm an engineer by training. There's something called the SLIE Acts, and also within the acts governing building permits, before you build a structure, you are obliged by law in Sierra Leone to submit your building plans, your architectural plan, your structural engineering plan, your electrical plan, your plumbing plan. How many of us, when we're constructing our homes, really submit plans to the Ministry of Works, to the chief engineers who are looking at those plans to approve for you to build a structure?
On the flip side of that question you asked, how often do those who are responsible to check those go and enforce it and make sure that people who are constructing submit all the relevant documentations?
They do have teams that go out and check these things. Of course, with government of Sierra Leone, the ability for people in
people would always want a shortcut, an easy way out, and beat the system. That's the reason institutions and leaders have been put in place to ensure those who would want to take the easy way out, the shortcut, bypass the system, get caught, apprehended, and face the penalties.
So there's work being done to address the building permitting system and how buildings are permitted. But I'm still pointing out that I, as a citizen, when structures that I was involved with were being built, we made sure that all of those were looked at properly and professionally. And so a fire won't catch because we've not installed cables properly, or the person I called to install a cable is just someone doing it on the side who has no qualifications to install properly, and then my house burned down. So that's what I'm saying, is that everyone has a responsibility to make things work. The institution has a responsibility to enforce and to make it work. We, the citizens, also have a responsibility to make sure, say, I don't call a quack to come and do something for me that's going to endanger my life and the life of my family. Now, speaking about the...
But how easy does the actual system, EDSA, make it for people who would want to do things the right way? When there are a lot of allegations of corruption, even within EDSA, you call the EDSA workers, they're asking you for a bribe. Too many corruption issues within. For citizens, if that system is affordable, easily accessible, why would anyone want another alternative if it's affordable and accessible? But how easy do you make it for citizens to go through the right channel? When you call EDSA, it would take nearly forever for them to send someone to fix it. So the people are left with no option but to get a quick fix.
We're talking about a lot of different things. For me, it's not easy at all. When the house that I'm living in now was being built, the only time we dealt with anybody from EDSA was when they finally came to install their meter. All the electrical wiring happened through contractors and engineers who knew what they were doing. And till this day, before I took up this role, I didn't have anyone from EDSA's number in my phone. I didn't know how to call an EDSA person to come and do X, Y, and Z. So it's not that like you're sitting in your community, you're sitting in your house, you're sitting in your community, and EDSA workers are passing and saying, I can come and do this, I can come and do that. So it's actually, you actually have to go out of your way to find an EDSA worker who will come and do something on the side.
Dr. Yunkela earlier, so remember that there are different classes of people in the society. For the haves like you could afford that. But for the have-nots, they're left with mostly the quacks. And sometimes these have-nots, the people they run to, are actually workers of EDSA. They just go to them, okay, you work at EDSA, you understand how to do this, come and do this for me. They negotiate on a price. So sometimes it's actually workers within EDSA who go to do these as jobs on the side.
That's not an impossibility, but I'm still saying that the responsibility sits with all of us. It's the same thing in the medical field. You can go to the hospital and get proper care, or you can get, so I'm going to switch to Creole for a little bit. You can get Pepe Doctor. Somebody will not say, get medicine and get pill inside bag, take this one, take this one. Just like how you know go to Pepe Doctor and you go get problem and you blame Connaughts. Likewise, don't go to a quack technician, you have a problem and you blame EDSA. So these are the things.
If I may interject, again, put it in context. That was then, that is now. Going forward, that's why we're bringing a private sector partner with EDSA, who have who are doing international management of utilities in their own countries across continents to change all of that. Rapid response, the right skills, the right management, so indeed we don't have quacks going to people's homes on the supply side, and we don't have them available for people to call. And of course, public education. Once we do that, let us hope that these companies don't get scared of EDSA too much, but there's some interest of 6 big ones. We're working on that. We'll see who will pick, who will continue with us in the contractual process, and inshallah by July or so, we have a private sector partner that know how to set up systems. It's about systems, it's about standards, it's about skills, and then public awareness, so that you have
all those systems, all those standards spoken of, since the days of former President Ahmad Tijan Kaba of blessed memory, there have been a lot of talks about investments in our energy sector, either by international partners, locally with Bumbuna, a lot of talks. Yet, the reality on the ground is not commensurate to all the figures we hear on the news. Millions of dollars, thousands of dollars pumped into our energy sector. Why is this still our reality? Because even when we're having these conversations, the history of investments communicated to the public, made plans on the way, and the reality of what they see, they take your submission with a pinch of salt.
I appreciate the skepticism. Judge us middle of next year. Yeah, but you'll be judging us every quarter now. Yeah, every quarter. That's why we are different. Yeah, that was then. That's history. We are convinced. That's why we've tried to educate the public on an energy transition. We never promised quick fixes, because quick fixes are political. Ours is based on modeling, data, planning, and those plans, I hope, will be owned by you, because in those plans, we are talking about what we can do in 3 years and what needs to be done in the next 7.
Part of that transition, do you see the need for us to commercialize electricity distribution and supply to private sector? For example, like what happened with telecoms. We don't just have Sierra Tel. There are options. So it's entirely up to the people to choose which internet service provider they would deal with which telecoms they would deal with. Do you see the need to bring that business model into electricity supply in the country? Because there are businesses, either Sierra Leoneans or others, who have an idea of going into energy sector to provide, to commercialize it, sell energy to people. Do we need that at this point?
We've already commercialized, to use the right terminology, privatized generation. This country already has IPPs, independent power producers. We have one of the best legislations in Africa.
But we don't see the competition for EDSA.
No, I'm coming to EDSA.
Beyond generators and solar systems,
so step by
almost
step.
Everyone is connected to EDSA.
Yeah,
beyond solar and generators.
Step by step. So stage 1 we're doing now, we're going to privatize part of it to an international partner. That's why we talk about private sector participation. That's part of my July, August timing that I've been explaining. We're going to do that partial privatization. Yeah, there are many models. Yeah. Second, we're now looking at possibility of also privatizing transmission, which is a new thing. Because again, we've insisted over time, only EDSA can, and EGTC will manage those lines. We're looking right now, Deputy Minister 2, and I have been discussing, he's been leading that with the Africa Finance Fund to see how we begin to study and look at the possibility of private sector building transmission lines. We're also looking at our legislation now to allow, it's not decided yet because we have to do some studies. The president set up a task force on energy and mining. So we're looking at Ghana. Ghana allows IPPs to supply mines direct. Our law does not allow. Yeah, South Africa same, Zambia same. We're looking at that again. So there's a task force with the Minister of Mines, Minister of Finance, ourselves looking at that. So there will be reforms, but I can tell you it has to be a systematic process. That's why plans matter. In this sector, you don't just do it. You have to have a plan and work on it systematically, and that's what we're doing. There's a task force looking at additional areas of transmission to have private sector participation and also possibly direct supply to private entities, but we're starting with the mines. We can't go jump too soon, otherwise you make even bigger mistakes. It has to be systematic. As he says, part of it is engineering, part of it is finance, part of it is economics.
Okay, let me come back to you, Edmond. As a rep from the Ministry of Energy, I still feel like you haven't answered my question. I mean, why do we still experience, blackouts or power cuts? I mean, with all these projects, pushed forward towards the energy sector.
Well, we're both from the Ministry of Energy.
I want you to
however, so the power cuts, as Doc has been saying, that we're going through a transitionary period. 5 years or 6 years ago, our ability to distribute electricity to Freetown was 50, 60 megawatts. Last year, we finished projects that have expanded that capacity to 130 megawatts. The amount of supply that we had at 50, 60 megawatts is still the supply that we have now, but our demand has increased. Doc is leading a lot of work, and by December, I'm sure he mentioned it before I arrived, by December we'll have another 117 megawatts added to the grid. Right now in this dry season, because of that expanded demand, we're trying to catch up in terms of supply. So we've refurbished the King Tom engines, that's come online. The Blackhall Road engines will be coming online. We're continuing our conversations with other countries in the region to buy power from them. So given the next 90 days, once more of these supply agreements and supply operations fall in place, you'll see a lot of easing of the pressures that we're all feeling now. But also, as Doc is saying, we are going to go into the substations today, tomorrow, the next couple of days to interrogate more if we are efficiently using the supply that we have now. How much are we getting out into the communities? Because we know what we've, on the production side, we know what's been given to EDSA. We're just following up now to understand, are there any blockages to get it to people's homes and businesses, and to understand how the operations are going. So at all times, we make sure that what is being produced is what is being delivered.
You're all geared up in your attire, if I may put it that way, your working attire. Have you been able to visit any of these communities to know exactly what are some of the issues?
Since starting in May of last year, or May, June, I visited several communities. I visited almost every substation in Freetown at different times of the day and nights. On some occasions, I've been at substations 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. I've been to our main distribution and dispatch center. I've been to the provinces as far as Bumuna, Makeni, Bo, Kenema, Sulima. We're really trying to make sure that we're a type of leadership that doesn't just stay away, but we go on the ground to really understand the challenges that we're facing as a country, to understand some of the issues. So when we're making our leadership decisions, when we're engaging with our engineers and the people who do the job, who do the work, we really understand where they're coming from in terms of constraints. We understand where they're coming from in terms of the resources that they have, and we understand the pain that the communities are facing as well.
What are some of the findings?
We're finding that we still have challenges in terms of infrastructure, especially. I can give examples of several communities where transformers are overloaded. Or Freetown, for example, from our analysis, there are 475 transformers across the city. But based on the growth of houses and the growth of our communities, we need to buy at least another 300 more transformers. So we see that there's a lot of overloading. Some transformers have 2 times the amount of customers that they're designed for. Some transformers, they're delivering lower voltage than they should because they're being overloaded. So we have a major gap in infrastructure installed in our systems. But as Doc is saying, the private sector participation that we're looking at for EDSA, it's not only someone to just come in and say, oh, we're running EDSA now, or running this part of EDSA now. These proposals that we're looking at are from people who should also come with capital. So some of the numbers that we're hearing from them, $30 million, $50 million, $60 million, that money that they're coming with money to buy some of these infrastructures that we need to improve our systems, and they're coming with expertise to help EDSA be more efficient.
There's a growing concern about, the electricity supply being rationaled. Sometimes you live in a particular community, and when you come to a specific area, there is electricity, and when you go further, there is no electricity. How is that, and what is being done in order to, minimize that kind of problem?
So that's not it is a problem, but for us, it's a mode of operation. As I said, we have 130 demand, we have around 60, 70, times 80 supply. So if that's what you have, you then have to share the electricity as equally as possible. And within any catchment area, let's take Godrich as an example. We have the Godrich substation. And then that Godrich substation has around 6 feeders, if I remember correctly. And then from those feeders, they go down to multiple transformers within that catchment. Each feeder is feeding at least between 20 to 40 transformers. And so if you know that for Godrich, what Godrich actually needs to be supplied is 40 megawatts. But what Godrich has access to is 15 or 20 megawatts. You then have to decide which feeder you're switching on, and when you switch on a feeder, you have to decide which transformer you're switching on. So that's where I'm sure people have seen EDSA workers going around to their communities to go into transformer locations, switch the transformer on, switch the transformer off. It's this, I would say, somewhat of a delicate dance that we have to do every single evening to load shed, unfortunately, but that's where we are, and move around switching different infrastructure on for different people to receive electricity.
Before you arrived, Doc has done you the honor to speak extensively about the distribution of electricity, within the country. Now, in one of his submissions, he spoke of that if there are proper checks being done, we have over like 15 meters that are running. Now, how can the ordinary Sierra Leonean get access to the prepaid meter, and how affordable is it?
Well, right now, it's through making an application, filling out forms with EDSA. But as Doc says, the reforms are constantly evolving. We're looking at how we're doing that process. His Excellency the President, Dr. Yumkela, myself, and the Minister of Finance, we were in Tanzania a couple of weeks ago, where we were approached by an interested meter manufacturing company. So these are some of the things we're looking at. How do we not only fix our metering problem, but how do we go beyond that and even try and invite investors who would come to do meter manufacturing here, which we will then become, our metering shortage issue will be solved, but also they would use Sierra Leone now as their export points for Guinea and Liberia. So these are some of the medium-term fixes for our metering. And short-term also, we have, I'm sure Doc has mentioned the 40,000 smart meters that we have in country now, which we will be rolling out over the next 6 months. And we'll continue to look at how to bring in companies that can manufacture smart meters here. Quickly before
Fabian comes in, what policies are in place in order to address, some of these challenges that we've been faced with? And also, Fabian spoke about workers within EDSA doing all these side jobs. What penalties have been put in place to ensure that, if they do something like that, we all know, say, Salon, we don't depend on this and so much as we can put and then safety one for the do, side jobs for letting the get a 15 board. In cases like this that cause a lot of havoc, what mechanism have been put in place, to ensure that, these workers have been monitored or regulated when they go out to do these jobs?
Well, EDSA current management is doing what they can. Working with their HR and the new COO to keep an eye on these issues of people doing side jobs. Yeah. I'll be the first to admit that it's not easy. They're limited in their ability to constantly track all, I think it's 1,000 some hundred workers that EDSA has. EDSA is not a small organization. It's a very large organization. There are lots of people out there. We've had all types of conversations about, should we have body cam, should we do this, should we do that, can we have uniforms and ID cards that
how can we
really identify people? And I like the question, or the way the question was phrased, around what policy are you putting in place. Policy is a very interesting discipline. You create policy and it looks great on paper. It's then having the type of leadership who are committed to do that follow-up to make sure that policy is being followed. And the thing about policy being followed, you're not talking about culture change. And in engineering, there's a whole area of engineering called change management. Change management takes time. And for a new culture to really set into an organization of people as large as 1,200 people, you're talking about instituting and reinforcing culture change. That'll probably take a year, 2 years to really have that culture change and see the full effects of your policy really take place.
Luckily, you are an engineer. What is responsible for the fluctuation in the electricity supply in terms of the voltage? There are times when it's ridiculously low voltage. At other times, it's high voltage. And the allegations are this is damaging people's property and leading to fire outbreaks in some instances. What's responsible for this?
There are multiple causes for fluctuations. I spoke to one just now around transformers being overloaded. And if a transformer is supposed to serve 100 homes and it's serving 200, you're going to see low voltage. That's one area. Another cause is the cables, the overhead cables that we use to distribute power. Whether it's the need for replacement of some of those cables. But then there's another issue that Sierra Leone has a lot of, which is environmental. So if you have trees that are growing up over, the tree branches are growing over the cables, if any of those branches fall and either cut the cable, or even if they touch the cable, they can cause a trip, or they can cause a fluctuation or disruption in supply. So we have a lot of, and we have a group, we have a WhatsApp group where every morning, the EDSA, the network manager, sends the list of faults for the day and communicates exactly where those faults are geographically, what's causing the faults, and when they are committing to, we in leadership and EDSA management, that they can fix those faults. We thank God that in general, their turnaround time for fixing faults has been 3 days, 3 days. Typically when it surpasses 3 days, that's when we come in at the political level and say, hey, this one has been taking a little longer than usual. What's the problem? Is it materials you don't have? Is it constraints with logistics? What can we do to unblock some of these issues that we have?
What's the rationale behind load shedding? Because in as much as we're doing load shedding as a nation, you'll find certain areas, they will tell you there are challenges, yes, but for them it seems the grass is greener on their side. And there are certain areas, electricity is a luxury because there's a disparity. Some people enjoy it more, others don't. So what's the rationale behind the load shedding? How do you determine how you distribute and manage this load shedding, the balance there?
Well, the thing about any system is reflective of the people who interact with the system and the people who run the system. So we all know how Sierra Leoneans are. I've seen instances where a community, this is not necessarily a politically connected person. There are people who call substations, their local substation, they start harassing the workers at the substation. Oh, this has happened, give me lights, give me lights, give me lights. There are people who try and use finance to get more favorable treatment. What we're doing at the leadership level is understanding the gaps and the issues of how load shedding is being managed. We are communicating very clearly to our network management personnel, our substation managers, the switching engineers, that the plan, the distribution plan that you're giving to us, we need you to stick to those plans. Yesterday, Dr. Yumken and myself spoke with some engineers about the need to start installing some smart sensors at substations for us to also be able to see in real time what's happening. Where is it being distributed? Is it being distributed fairly? So we do understand that there are these gaps, there are these disparities, and what we can do as managers, and I would say new managers in electricity, I've been there for 6 months, Doc has been there for 4, 5 months, we're looking at these issues and we're saying, okay, let's start putting technology here. Let's start doing additional capacity building and training here. Let's start understanding how we can make sure we track and make things fairer.
For the voltage regulation and, challenges it's posing, we live in a society where there's no proper zoning of things. You'll find one community, it's both a residential area and an industrial area. You'll find people who do water sachet production in communities, and the level of electricity consumption is not balanced. Households and factories don't consume the same electricity. What are the challenges in this as it relates to the voltage issues we're having in the communities?
The challenge comes down, well, one of the challenges is, again, going back to wiring and who you take to do an installation at a location. So for a large, high voltage consumer, you really should have a 3-phase installation at your location. And in some cases, they even, if it's a large enough consumer, they even have their own transformer coming into their location.
Is that a safe or wise, efficient method we should stay on? Or do we need to go back to change that system where residential areas do not have industrial factories? You get them their own zone. Could that be part of the solution?
Well, now you're talking to something that's outside of the remit of the Ministry of Energy.
It could be outside of your ministry, but the thing about these conversations is, if, depending on your submission, could guide another institution to say, this is our direction, because it's all about collaboration. All these institutions work together for the service of the people. So again, from the energy perspective, could that be part of the solutions?
It could be, but in reality, you would now be doing that solution for new development areas. Right now, as it is, for you to reorganize Lumley would mean a lot of displacement of people, or you move this factory or you move your house out of this. That's not possible. So in settlements where the construction has happened and the mix of structures is the way it is, we have to meet the community and the neighborhoods as they are. And of course, for new developments, and I'm sure the Minister of Lands and Housing and Country Planning is looking at how to make sure that things are zoned properly.
Okay, quickly before we join Esther Mario, who's all set to give us sports updates, Doc, let me bring you back in. Now, how is Sierra Leone aligning its energy sector development to that of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 7 specifically, so which aims at affordable and clean energy for all?
The goal that I created, that I led the creation of. All our work is geared towards that. Really geared towards that, the goals and the specific targets. So for example, we've not said anything about clean cooking. Access to clean cooking solutions is just as important as electrification. We're developing a strategy now with the World Bank for a first clean cooking strategy for the country, including an investment plan. So everything we do is geared towards that. Our President Bio's trip to Tanzania was because of that. So we're in the second tier of countries under Mission 300. So between now, again, everything is at the same time. Between now and maybe third quarter of this year, we have to come with a new energy compact supported by the World Bank, ADB, Rockefeller Foundation, and others. So you'll have a new energy compact, big one. That's why we went. How will African countries reduce energy poverty by 50% in the next 6 years? That's why we were there. President made a strong case, so we're now in the second tier. I give you an example. Senegal, they presented a compact of $6 billion to add several million more people to electricity access based on SDG 7. Yes, they got a pledge of $3 billion and a number of financing institutions to support them. We're engaged now. President has set up a team led by myself and the Minister of Finance to develop that new compact for this country, yeah, so that we get additional funding, because all these problems you've described, ideas are good, plans are good, it requires cash to deliver. And so inshallah we'll be part of Mission 300, and we're working on that now.
Doc, what will be your assessment with regards to the current state of electricity in this country?
After all that discussion, this is like a hot mental question at the end. Let me put it this way. It is inadequate, but I'm very optimistic that we can break the back of this problem in the next 18 months. Meaning what? We will add, under President Bio, triple the supply into Freetown, light up more communities across this country, additional transmission lines. We will attract additional investments and global support. And the global community is listening. President Bio is meeting key actors whenever we go. It's not the big show you see on TV. It's the side meetings we have. We're getting commitment after commitment because they're convinced now that the leadership we have, and let me describe that leadership, it's not the two of us, we're teams. That's why we insisted on coming here together. The next one you'll see Dr. Eldred Taylor and another team. It is the people, it's not an I thing. It is the team we've created with the president that involves him, Minister of Finance, Vice President, and others, and ourselves to lead this sector, yeah? And that's what is different now. And we're getting some quicker decisions from His Excellency. And so we're very optimistic. I leave here on an optimistic mode, but there's a community responsibility. In Bo and Kenema, some of our substations were vandalized. Yeah? The ADB was not happy this week. And they asked us a question. They've checked. In Kabbalah, 7 out of 17 were damaged. They said to us, but this is not normal in other countries. And it's not poverty. They say something about vandalization is not good here. Do people not realize that you deprive a whole community? So we're looking at that very closely. But the bottom line is, what I'm pleading here, yeah, and we're telling our EDSA people now that community engagement, own these substations, own the transformers in your community. There are communities who 2 years ago and last year built their own cage. Why? They say, this now we own. We've done it for COVID, for example, or Ebola having community watch. So we need more community engagement to also help us police as we add more security and technology cameras possibly to protect some of these areas, because it takes money and it takes time to import those things. But the African Development Bank assessor said, what's going on in your country? Why would people do this? So there has to be penalties as well for those when we catch them. There's some now we've caught. I just found out now that we have an EDSA court. I didn't know, like a commercial court. So again, working with the Attorney General, we see how we speed up some of those, but it's the community engagement. So there are these transformer now on our own. On our low help, low join on, how they protect them, because we didn't damage them. So until then, 1 year, we'll get for sit down.
I'm glad that you don't carry the talk Pankrio. Let me talk to the ordinary citizens of this country. You just mentioned, say, inside the next 18 months, some of these issues will be addressed or amended. How soon? Or is it that we get for wait? You know, we don't talk also, we don't talk about the problems.
Get timetable, okay. Yeah? I don't give you timetable. Almost would they add by April, almost would they add by June, which would they add by December, and which would they add first quarter. So I want to let Salone people know, say, especially Salone people, we want to let know, say, President Bio get a clear plan. Yeah, it gets in short-term plan, in medium-term plan, in long-term plan. We they assure una say, we go supply electricity, we go build transformers, transmission systems and distribution systems. Una bear with we. The problem we they try for solve now 40-year problem. 20 years this country dey on emergency power today. Una want do something quick, una clap for we all left. As this government don't know begin well. No. What we want put in place nothing with the last 30, 40 years. Where other people then can they add panel. And waiting we they do now waiting others don't do in 6 months, 6 years. Then don't plan, then don't begin something then. The last team with Kanja, another one day. We own job now, the way we President Bio don't restructure this aid elite. Now for fast track the implementation of that. The good news is the international community want help with big one. When President Bio sit down with some of them people then at Tanzania recently, then don't begin make commitments and they can't give this country a new compact. A bigger compact where people not ever see it, and with enough international mobilization for let be say finally in another 5 years, we go there, we not go there, that's another question. But by that 10 day, 5 year, 10 year, the emergency problem here in our history. We want to like Ghana, like Cote d'Ivoire, like Kenya.
Doc, please continue to stay with Doc, please continue to stay with us. We're not done yet. We still have Dr. Kandekole Yumkela and the engineer Edmond Noni with us in the studio. Dr. Yumkela, let's go back to the Karpowership conversation. We've had negotiations with the Karpowership over and over and over again, but what do we owe Karpowership for starters? Let's clear that, because previously we knew that we had a huge debt burden with Karpowership. How much do we owe Transco, SLCG and Karpower?
We've always owed Karpower since 2021. So we carry over those arrears and they accumulate as we go. As I speak, let me put it this way. If you add the arrears and what we have to pay for the power they supply now, by June we should pay Karpower $90 million, a little over $90 million. That includes the debt and what we have to pay over time.
In your honest assessment, what do you think about the fact that we've gone on negotiations with Karpowership, and then obviously it's not free, they're getting paid for the service delivered, and we've not turned attention to refurbishing King Tom, Blackhall Road, all these power stations, or even perhaps investing that into the further development of even Bumbuna?
Let me put it this way, so people can understand. I give you an example, an analogy. It's like you go to somebody, you borrow $1,000, and they say you should pay $100 every month. So you pay them for 4 months, yeah, you still owe $600, right? But then you go back and borrow another $1,000. Now you owe them $1,600. Then you're still on the monthly payment of $100. You pay again another 4 months, so you're down from $1,600, you're down now to $1,200. But then you go back and borrow another $1,000. So now you owe $2,200. It's a vicious circle with emergency power. This is why the president wants us to remain focused. Yeah? That energy sovereignty, it's his terminology. I did not make it. At the retreat, he shocked all of us with that terminology. He said, I want energy sovereignty for our country. We have to find our way to wean ourselves off emergency power after 20 years. It doesn't mean, like we've seen across West Africa, you will never have a partnership with Karpower. Yeah, you have to. But the context is different. They came here under emergency conditions. Now we are in a transition situation. We want to transition to bigger power. We want to transition to cleaner power, yeah, as much as we can. So again, because we're still negotiating, there are 4 months to go with their contract, we're looking at everything, and they've been good partners, let's face it. Because we didn't fix everything we should fix, as you said, King Tom, Blackhall Road, and other issues over a decade, yeah, now they're serving us, and they've been here. At least they've been giving us power, right? Because we don't have another source except we buy from others. Yes, we owe them, and we owe Transco. We owe Transco another 20-something million. This again comes back to the EDSA issue. That's why you see the obsession. But don't worry, we'll put a team together with Dr. Taylor and others so that you have a session on EDSA. Everything we need to do to get it to work right. Because I sympathize with the Ministry of Finance. I keep saying that. I've spent a lot of time with them now. And in fact,
why do you sympathize with them?
Because our utility cannot pay bills, suddenly it becomes sovereign debt. Suddenly we have to go to them to pay.
So this still leaves us with the business model of EDSA. EDSA itself, electricity is a business. We're running on prepaid meters. It seems the business model of EDSA is ineffective because it's a business. You're selling electricity. But how come EDSA is in this situation where it cannot even pay off its debts to the suppliers, talk less of being independent financially to a point where they can be able to invest in other sources? The business model.
If you want to do EDSA, that's why I'm promising you, you're not even asking. We're going to have a public information session on EDSA reforms, what we've seen, all the we've done recent assessment 3-4 months, so that you look at it in totality. It's not a quick answer because so many things are wrong.
We'll take that as you've put it, but still finally on EDSA, MDAs are some of the biggest debtors for EDSA. So you find a situation where MDAs owe a huge chunk of money, but those locals in their communities suffer the crux of the repercussions of the MDA's debts they've not paid to EDSA. And many of these MDAs, they have their yearly budget. Ministry of Finance allocates, that's a whole conversation on its own, but electricity supply is part of their budget. Yet they owe EDSA crazy amounts of money.
Very true.
What are you doing as, you know, part of the new leadership of electricity in the country to chase after those MDAs to pay EDSA what they owe them?
Thank you for raising it. Very accurate. You're doing your homework very well. So we're with finance because the deal we had that has existed with finance cut at source, cut their bills at source. So before you send the money to education, that phone bill, that light bill when they owe we, cut at 110. That's one solution. But to avoid accumulation, we're discussing internally now some of them prepaid tamper-proof meters. We'll go begin put another ministry. You know, then days here in the show where EDSA building they blackout. So as I say, we the leadership must show that responsibility, that sense of responsibility and leadership. So then, Seth, we're discussing internally. So until they can begin getting them prepaid, so that's not the day again. Also, you pay like any citizen, you get lights. Where your budgets can pay 110. But the other solution is cut at source. So we're in conversations. MDAs owe us a lot of money, but at the same time, the government is subsidizing the energy sector big time. The energy sector, that's why it is so crucial that we don't do quick fixes, emergency solutions.
Do we still need to maintain those subsidies? Because take, for example, in fuel situation, in gas, government was doing subsidy. At some point, we figured out this is not a sustainable method, and it's adding more burden on the government, and that was reversed. Do we need that in the energy sector?
Similarly, that's why...
Would you advise we need that?
So that's why you need that energy mix where we started before. You see how things connect.
Yeah, but you've not answered. Do you think we need that?
Let me give you, in our case, you include more cheaper, least cost sources in the mix. You lower tariff to affordable levels, then you don't have to subsidize. In addition, you make sure the biggest debtor, the government institutions, you cut at source or you give them prepay. In the energy sector, policies interlink. So we got to do all of the above. I'm very happy you went back to where we started. That's why it's a systems issue. It's not a quick fix. It's a systems issue. If you don't fix several parts of the system, the whole doesn't hold. And that's why we're focused, in spite of the interruptions now. We're going to check why the interruptions, but we're staying on that trajectory that we've developed with the president, short term, medium term, long term, so we have sustainable, affordable, reliable power in this country based on SDG 7.
Lastly, from my end, I notice your team is, sending us signals you have to go. But on a personal note now, I'd love both of your responses to this answer. It's on your personal opinion assessment. You've been appointed in office at a very crucial time, literally the dark days in the country when it comes to electricity issues. How do you feel about your appointments, your job opportunities during this time when it's not one of the beautiful or rosy institutions to work? I'd like to hear your submissions on this. Personally, how do you feel?
He goes first. I go
Yes, engineer, please, for me. How do you feel? You're a very young man, and this is your debut in public service as a government minister.
While, right?
And this is your first appointment in a very challenging sector. People really don't like you guys right now.
Yes. Well, I'm having fun because as an engineer, you know, you go through your training and you know that engineering exists to solve problems, practically solve problems. Engineering is the practical application of science and technology. So I've always enjoyed challenging assignments. I've also always enjoyed being able to look at systems and understand where there are weaknesses in systems and then design what needs to be designed that will solve problems. So for me, it's been interesting. I've always been someone who's not shy to confront issues. I've always been someone who I don't mind if people don't like me. But once we're doing the right thing and we're helping people, that's what's important for me.
Doc?
I'm excited. I'm excited because I've spent 30 years in this space. I've been advocating for energy access, developing SDG 7, SDG 9, and so on over the last 30 years. I'm excited because I know it can be done. Yeah, and I feel very honored. When President Bill asked me to do, I said, "Pana bad name job o tindom puel." It's a kind of dynamic you get for doing leadership na way problem day. And indeed, it's not Kande, it's the team. That's what we're building now. It is engineer Nuni, it's engineer Taylor, it's our engineers, the senior guys we have. But the difference is we have the guy who is leading the team is Mr. President, is Minister of Finance, it is Vice President. We're bringing everybody around because he, as the Commander-in-Chief, is saying, join me to fix it. For me, it's a wonderful challenge because it includes public policy. It includes finance. It includes building partnerships, technology, everything that I have known about for 30 years. So we're trying to bring that home, and the networks and knowledge systems to bring them home, to set us on a trajectory of sustainable, reliable power. But I'm very confident because we have the team. It is also a challenge in change management. I did change management for my last organization. The culture change is the biggest challenge. If you go look at the theory of change management. Culture change is here. There are management issues, structural issues, technology issues, institutional policy issues, values, and then culture. How do we go down then to that workforce that they share this drive and the sense of urgency? What I see missing the most is that sense of urgency. People have a task to do, and take it in 10. Project for finish, then take it in 10. But where exchange rate change, you lost value for the project. Project way for done 4 year, you do a 7 year. Now they try for the other one, then they're not done. So that culture change, but also the sense of responsibility of citizens, which he was referring to, that we own this this transformer, we all have for protector. If we catch you the puela, we deal with you in this community. And also the sense of responsibility of those in the agencies. No go do fake meter, no go connect, and standardization. So in sum, what I'm saying is, it's an exciting opportunity to help this country with all the bad name way and implications. But look, my sister, if some of us don't stand using all the knowledge we have to fix some things now, we pass it on. And that's what has happened to emergency power. 4, 5 administrations, same business model as you can call it. We want to change that business model. We want to break it to go into transition. Short, medium, long-term transitions. And I'm convinced, fully convinced, in the next few years, we'll be on a trajectory that you will know so well that you know they allow person for come back to the old style. Will they change that business model?
Okay, so quickly as we wrap up, what Sierra Leoneans should be expecting in the next couple of days or in the next couple of months with regards to the findings that you're doing at the moment?
Well, I can't preempt what the findings are going to be. What they can expect is an honest communication and an honest appraisal from us around what challenges we're going to face. This is not a witch hunt. This is just a very clear and transparent look at are we being as efficient and effective as possible. So that's the first thing they can expect. And the next things they can expect, I think Doc has really laid it out for everyone in terms of 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 3 years. And we are determined to stick to our plans that we've made and remain focused in making sure we improve service delivery.
The issue of electricity will be addressed?
Yes, the issue of electricity will be addressed. And I just want to add one last thing.
Quickly.
The DOC is doing a brilliant job around strategic leadership and direction and pushing at the policy level, interministerial, outside partnerships. Within the ministry and within the sector, we're not taking our eye off of service delivery. So every Tuesday, we have 2-hour meetings that are focused on service delivery, where we have engineers from EGTC, from EDSA, and we're looking at the entire energy value chain. When electricity leaves the production house, how does it get transmitted? How does it get distributed? So every week we're meeting on that, and every week we're saying, okay, as Doc is saying, every day we're seeing the statistics of what we're producing, what we're sending. So this is not just big ideas and this is going to happen. We're also saying, okay, what we have now, how are we managing it? So that's what we can promise to people.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Speaking to us this morning is the chairman, Presidential Initiative on Climate Change, Renewable Energy and Food Security, who also doubles as the chairman, Energy Governance Coordination Group, Alhaji Dr. Kande Kole Yumkele, and also the Deputy Minister of Energy 2, Engineer Edmond Noni. Well, this is where we end today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone. We say thanks to our sponsor, Raquel Commercial Bank, and for the support towards the program, and to all our audience. We appreciate you, and we do apologize that because of time we couldn't take the messages, but we hope that we'll do so some other time. We have been your presenters. I am Marina Terry.
And I am Fabian Swale, wishing you a lovely and a pleasant day.